Hi everybody, I'm Steve. I am the current maintainer of the Shoes and Hackety Hack projects, the best things that why the Lucky Stiff left the world before he went away. And yeah, I guess that's my intro.
That's it. And I'm Victor Goff, and I'm a mentor at rubylearning.org. And we were hoping to have Satoshi on here, but it looks like we may be missing out on him today. But this is the first time we're having this show, so of course things are going to be a little wonky. Thank you, Carmelin, for hosting this for us. And there she is. Hey, I still have a halo. What's up with that? Alright, so I heard you guys had an IRC Hangout hackathon last night going on.
Yeah, definitely. So two of the guys that hack on shoes, I've met one of them in real life, and another one of them I've talked to a lot, and he's done a lot of work. Chuck Reams and Eric was not Rice, I forget his last name at the moment. And so we had wanted to get together to actually put some time into fixing some issues on shoes. And so it's always more fun when you code with friends. So we decided to let everybody else know and show up too, and we got an IRC, and that turned out that was last night. So it was great timing because we planned it about 2 weeks ago, and Satoshi had posted that he had done some really great stuff with Windows, and so everyone was feeling really good in general last night. And while we didn't necessarily get a whole lot of new things done, we cleaned up some old stuff and brought a couple new people into the fold. So we got some people got a new commit or are working on some stuff now, and so that's kind of neat. But basically what we're doing is gearing up for a Shoes 3.1 release of Red Shoes, that is. And the cool thing about that is that it will be based on Ruby 1.9.3 rather than the old and busted Ruby 191 that Shoes has been using for the last 2 years. So that's really exciting. Mostly not just because it's bringing old things to new stuff, but also because it's the threading model on Ruby 191 is really terrible. So with Ruby 193, it'll hopefully be a lot nicer as far as the multi-threaded stuff, which GUI toolkits use a lot of.
And is this going to be for brown shoes and green shoes and red shoes and?
So this is primarily a Red Shoes thing, but a lot of them share code. So brown shoes and green shoes are already working on 193, for example. So there's that. And since they're based on Ruby, they don't compile to C. They already have the newest versions of gems and such, which is the other big thing that we're going to be doing. The first thing after 3.1 with the new Ruby is going to be working on updating all of the gems that we use. So there's that. The other thing that we're working on for Red that will be useful to the other shoes projects is making shoes available as a gem. So right now you have to download shoes as a toolkit, and the thing that people have been bugging why about forever, and then us, is why can't I gem install shoes and just use it from Ruby? And there's a lot of complex technical reasons why that's the case, but we're working on it may not be usable directly in the sense that you won't be able to use it to develop applications, but what it will be able to do is let you write things like RSpec tests from Ruby itself, so that we could write a suite of tests that would work on red shoes and green shoes and brown shoes, and then be able to make sure that we're all building stuff that's the same. So that's the other big thing that's an advantage, and then eventually you'd be able to gem install shoes to use it as well. So that's going to be down in the future. But that's very difficult, and it's taken a lot of work to get to even the point where we're at right now, which is that it doesn't work that well. It works, but not very often. So
not very often.
Yeah.
So it's one of those intermediate things, or
yeah, it crashes about every fourth time you run it. And so so we're putting lots of work into that kind of thing.
The other question I had, so when there's a change with brown shoes like this, or green shoes or red shoes, is it really a coordinated thing? Is there a common kernel change that happens, or?
Yeah, so we're working on it. Basically, the problem is that about 80% of shoes, red shoes that is written in C. And so if we change stuff about how that works, it's not really able to be directly used by brown and green because they're all in Ruby. So one of the things that we're trying to work on for the future is extracting more and more, like the only reason that that's written in C is that Y was trying to learn the C API, and so he built it all in C as sort of like a fun exercise because that's what Y does. But there's no technical reason why most of shoes could not be in Ruby, even red shoes. It just so happens that it's all in C. So we're slowly working on a process of extracting that like common kernel of the like application code into something that we could all share about. But most of what Green and Brown have been doing is just trying to make themselves work and be compatible. They haven't really been moving forward in a way that would be like, that we would merge those changes back into red. There's sort of a place for experimentation. And so basically, Green is headed up by Satoshi, and red is headed up by me, and brown is headed up by Peter. And so it's not directly coordinated in the sense that we don't always talk about what we're doing, but we're definitely like aware of what's going on with each other's projects to a certain degree. And so, hopefully the goal is over time to bring those more and more to a common unified core so that there'll be a bunch of pure Ruby shoes that then will have a thin amount of the red and brown and green, so you'll be able to pick which one you want, and then we'll have like a more unified shoes. But part of the fun is having all these different projects where experimentation can happen. So, when Satoshi built green shoes, he didn't have to worry about being 100% compatible with red because people expected it to be like fun and experimental, so he made some changes, and I think they're pretty good overall. But we're sort of fighting. Red shoes is trying to stay like a reference implementation in a lot of ways. It's sort of like how Ruby 1.8 didn't really improve that much once work on 1.9 started. They just did bug fixes and patches and stuff like that. It's the same kind of deal where we're trying to make sure that just to put it in a little bit of perspective, like Y left, a long time ago. There have been 3 releases of the Mac OS, 12 releases of the different versions of Linux that we support, and 3 new kinds of Windows since Y left. So even just getting Red Shoes running on those platforms is a lot of effort without actually doing any sort of improvements. So the bit rot has been a big problem historically. But things are, I sound kind of dour about it only because I put in hours and hours and hours of work, and it's slow and steady progress, but progress is being made, and it does like largely work, although there's a lot of rough edges. So I think it's really great that we have these 3 projects because, they're able to do different things. I think JRuby is going to be a really big thing in a couple years, and so I'm really excited for Brown Shoes just for that reason, because having it on JRuby is fantastic, and the JRuby team is very, very interested in having a shoes that works on JRuby. So as Brown Shoes matures, it may become the default way to build GUI applications with JRuby, and so that will be really, really cool. I know the JRuby guys, and they've definitely said that they think that shoes is very important for JRuby, so that's kind of nice. And being able to have people involved in shoes that aren't C programmers is one of the great things about green shoes. So lots of times when people say, hey, I'd love to help out with shoes, but I don't really know C and it's kind of scary, I'll be like, go work on green shoes with Ash, because there's less of a barrier to entry. So.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then how does this affect Hackety Hack? Because having green shoes and brown shoes and red shoes being like the MRI basically implementation, meaning the core implementation that the other things are based on. Can you use Hackety Hack with different versions of shoes as the core, or how is that going to be handled?
So Ash has built a little tiny Hackety Hack lesson viewer and a couple other mini Hackety Hacks in green shoes. But the big problem, right now, Hackety is only for red shoes, and the main reason why is the packaging. So one of the major benefits of Hackety Hack, and one of its main selling points, is that you only download one thing, and you can do everything about programming. And so telling a brand new programmer, hey, go download Ruby, then open up a command line, type gem install green shoes, and then open an editor and type this stuff in, that's way more complicated than the click the run button.
Right.
And you download this one exe. So eventually,
Hackety Hack's kind of the kernel, and it uses Ruby as
Ruby
in that kind of a way. Yeah.
And
Okay.
so that's for me the deal breaker. Even though Hackety could theoretically run on any of those shoes, my focus is always about like what's the best possible thing for the beginner. And so I feel really strongly that we should do what's best for the beginner no matter how painful it is. And so like I would love to tell new people to gem and install green shoes, but
Right.
that would save me so much time and effort. But I don't think that it's the right thing to do, and so that's sort of why I'm keeping doing this other thing, even though it is very difficult. Also, hard programming is fun. Like I complain about it a lot, but shoes is the only time that I get to do C programming nowadays. So so it's also really great from that perspective to get some it's not something I normally do. I build websites most of the time, so it's a refreshing change of pace, and I really do enjoy doing it, even though I sound down about it when I talk about it sometimes.
Yeah.
So once they get a packager, Brown Shoes will possibly have that because there are things like RAR and Warbler that let you package things on JRuby, and so so that's definitely a possibility. And Peter is himself in school, and so he is loves education. I mean, pretty much everyone involved with shoes loves teaching people. So Hackety is important to everyone, even if it doesn't isn't super supported on those platforms yet. It's a great. I will tell students that use Hackety, like once you graduate to doing more real Ruby programming, or once you are installing your own Ruby, like use green shoes instead of red shoes. But while you're getting started, use red because that all-in-oneness is like a really big feature.
Yeah,
And
it's kind of the same reason why I tell people go ahead and install Redcar as the editor, because it's written in Ruby. So as you're learning, if there's something you want to change in your editor, you can.
Yep.
It gives you the sense of, oh wow, I just affected something that really I can use over the next few months because I can use it every day.
Totally.
So.
Yeah, and it does help a lot. So I volunteer with an organization called Code Now in Washington D.C. and both Jeff Casimir, who works at Jumpstart Labs with me and teaches, I should say I work with him, really, it's his company, but we teach professionally, like at companies, how to teach Ruby. And so when we go to Code Now and we teach high school kids, we use Hackety Hack to teach them stuff, and so that all-in-one thing is a really big benefit. After the first day, they generally go home and download and install it on their own computers, and they've told me like, wow, that was really easy. Like I tried to figure out how to program before, and like the instructions were too complicated for me. So so that's really, really important.
All right, and I think we're getting close on time for you and for Carmelin. So I think we're going to leave with this. I know that when I was in school, and a lot of people, in between now and I don't know when they stopped doing it, because I'm talking to kids now and they don't know the logo turtle. And but I know in like maybe it was 6th grade, 5th or 6th grade, maybe a little bit earlier than that. That was cool to be able to go forward 100, right turn 90, and learn how to iterate that 4 times and make little boxes, right?
Definitely.
So now you're going to be at the point where people are going to be 60 years, 40 years from now going, you know what, in high school or elementary school, my first recollection of programming was shoes or Hackety Hack. And that's got to be a pretty cool feeling. So.
And we use the turtle as the first lesson, actually, so they'll be saying both. So that's really exciting. One of the things about the turtle thing that's interesting, and I guess the last thing I'll say is that I learned this from my parents. So when I have 2 younger siblings, and when I was a teenager, like I grew up on public television, basically. My parents like made me watch Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers and all that stuff. And one of the things when I was a teenager is I asked my parents, like, how could you stand watching Sesame Street for like 20 years? Like, I don't get it. It's like for children, and like, it's kind of annoying. And they said, oh, well, if you're old, like they put references to things in there from like actors that I know, or whatever. Like when I found out that Thomas the Tank Engine's conductor was like George Carlin, I like lost it as an older person, or like Ringo Starr. And so there's a lot of things in the Hackety lessons where I sort of took that lesson to heart. And so like logo is sort of a reference to the parents. I have lots of parents that have told me like, I walked my 10-year-old kid through lessons in Hackety Hack the other day, and I really enjoyed your references to the Hitchhiker's Guide, and I really enjoyed the like logo. But like kids don't know anything about that, but it made it interesting for me while I helped to teach them. And so that's one of the things that I've like taken to heart, and I really try to do with my lessons is make it accessible for kids. And anybody in general, but also put references to any older nerds who may be helping out with the instructions so that they, find it fun. So,
I that was our daily, let's sit down on the couch or on the floor and read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy to my kids when my youngest was like 3 years old and the older ones were about 10. So yeah.
Yep.
So.
Awesome. Well, this has been a lot of fun. So thanks for having us on.
All right. Thank you, Carmelin.
Right, I have my mic muted, but you're welcome. So we'll see more of both of you next week for another shoe session.
Yeah, hopefully. We'll see how it goes. I have a crazy schedule, but we'll probably work something out. If not next week, the week after, sometime soon.
Okay.
Okay.
That's awesome.
All right. Thank you, Steve.
Bye.
Bye.